Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another impromptu video. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's healthy and got through the whole New Year's thing in one piece. I'm doing all right, thank you very much. I had a very quiet one, just like my Christmas. It was nice and quiet. It's exactly how I like it. No fuss or anything like that. And yeah, life goes on, does it not? One thing that I was continuing to do, however, over the past few days, because it does make for exceedingly intriguing viewing, I have to say, is the whole fallout of what's been wrongly and fraudulently, or fraudulently even, named the final experiment. For those of you who don't know, in recent days or last couple of weeks or whatever, a group of people went on a trip to what they call Antarctica. This has been in the planning now for months and months and months. The front man of it all is a guy called Will Duffy, who is, by all accounts, a pastor. And he, I would beg to differ, but he allegedly has funded a few people to take a trip to Antarctica to, in his opinion, kind of settle a flat earth, globe earth debate. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up again is because I'm seeing a heck of a lot of aggravation online and people being upset with themselves, at each other, throwing accusations around and all sorts. And that's just within the so-called flat earth community, for example, right? Here's the thing. Before anybody ever went on a trip anywhere, the whole thing was fraudulently named. You can't name something a final experiment if it's not final. Of course it isn't. And it's definitely not an experiment, right? Look up the word experiment. I'm not going to explain it all now, but there is a specific definition for the word experiment, and it involves the scientific method, right? That is not the case. They are merely making an observation by looking up in the sky to see how long the sun is in the sky for, right? And the claim is that they saw a sun for 24 hours, which in their view, that's the globe supporting side of the group of people who went down. So you had a couple of so-called flat earthers that also went down there. I say down, see, I'm already making a mistake of calling it down. That's presuming we're on a globe. Went to this place, Antarctica. Again, Antarctica, only a place that can exist on a globe. That's the lump of ice underneath the ball, if you're adhering to that depiction of our realm, right? But anyway, this group of people went down, allegedly saw a 24-hour sun, and thus, in a false dichotomy, of course, surmised that we therefore must be on a globe, right? Same thing goes for the flat earth side. If we don't see a 24-hour sun, we must be on a flat earth. Well, forgetting all about what they saw, what they didn't see, what they called what, and how they wrongly called this, that, or the other, fact of the matter is nothing has changed. And I think, something I've always said is that you should always look at the timing of something to get a little bit of an insight as to what's going on, right? So this year in particular, or last year I should say, 2024 in particular, for me, the silver bullet argument was revealed and heavily discussed, and I use it now every time. No longer do I have to say to somebody who claims a globe model, for example, or a globe Earth or a planet Earth, no longer do I have to say to them, well, it's your claim, so, the burden of proof is on the person who makes the claim, so you have to prove it to me, which, by the way, would also be correct. But I can now, with the arguments that we have now, positively make claim to a flat Earth. And the proofs are very simple, and they are irrefutable. That's the key thing. They're not debatable, right? And the answer to that is that we measure the Earth flat, right? For all so-called models, they're not models, but let's just call it that for argument's sake, right? For all so-called models, globe or otherwise, right? Everything is derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements, specifically to Polaris when we talk about ascertaining latitude, right? Elevation angle measurements only work from a flat baseline. That would be the ground you're standing on, or the sea you're floating on, whatever, right? And that flat baseline or horizon is fundamental and a prerequisite for any measurements to take place. You have your flat baseline, as I'm depicting here, and then you have your angle measurement, elevation angle measurement up to the light that you're looking at. Let's just say if you're navigating, you would be looking through a sextant, right? And inside that sextant, you also have what's called a horizon mirror. But the point I'm making is the horizon line is a prerequisite. It has to be. You can't get an angle measurement off a curved surface. And if you look at the definition of the word angle at all, an angle is simply two straight lines, one there, meeting at a vertex. That's the corner bit. That's your angle in between those two lines, right? Now, it doesn't matter how someone of a globe disposition or whatever comes at you with, yeah, but curvature this, or we only measure it flat locally, which is a classic, you know, or whatever. It's all irrelevant. However they argue, however anybody argues, fact of the matter is we require a flat horizon, baseline, level ground to be able to carry out those elevation angle measurements to then map the ground we're standing on, or to plot our position in the open ocean so that we don't die, right? That would be by way of celestial navigation. Angles are involved, which means only straight lines can be involved. And I keep saying this, but I'll say it gladly again. This is not my idea. This is not some kind of conspiracy theory. It's not some sort of flat earth psyop. It's nothing of that nature at all. It's the way things are done. We've known this since we went to school, but the thing was, it was very quickly whistled past and very quickly separated from all the other stuff you learn. So by the time you're going through school, kind of paying attention to what you're learning and kind of not, you know, the globe thing is embedded in your mind already anyway. You know, space travel and all that nonsense, right? Which we keep getting reminded of on a daily basis, don't we? Globes here, whether it's the beginning of a new sequence, they'll put in a globe, or before a film, Universal Studio, for example, big depiction of a globe right from the outset. You know, even in a lot of films and sitcoms and goodness knows what else you watch, there's always a globe in the background, or there's something to lure you into that officialdom that the powers that are, whoever they may be, and they sit way above the politicians. I've said that loads of times. Don't want to repeat myself. Those who know. That's how they want you to think. That's where they want you to focus your mind and remain, you know. But getting back to the point I was making. So the whole final experiment, by way of the use of foolish expendables, as I called them a couple of videos ago, proves absolutely nothing. The only thing it does demonstrate to me is the incompetence of those who took part. The amateurish approach to it all, the lack of proper data at all, the revealing of little mishaps here, there and everywhere, whether it's someone having a sneaky vape and then exhaling to pretend that his breath does create condensation in the cold air, yet the whole time they're all talking, absolutely no condensation is to be seen, etc, etc, etc. The point I'm making is there are lots of little things going on that are making people question the validity of it at all, or whether they were there at all. That's all very fascinating, and I'm intrigued and I am paying attention to people's videos and things like that and seeing what they've got to say about it all. But when it all comes down to it, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, Earth is measured flat, regardless of whether the whole thing was real, not real, what they saw in the sky, didn't see in the sky, whatever. It's totally irrelevant. Makes for good chit chat, makes for good entertainment. It got me through a couple of very quiet evenings over the last few days or so, right? Very interesting to watch the meltdown with some people, how they're desperately trying to cling on to their azimuth or equidistant Gleason's map. That's just on the flat Earth side, by the way. I'm not even having a swipe at the globe heads. They're all idiots anyway. The ones who push it online and the ones who argue and just don't want to see facts, right? But the ones who I thought would know their stuff by claiming to be flat earthers, well, what do you know? They're clearly not. They can't be. Because if they were, this wouldn't bother them at all. It would be like water off a duck's back to them. But it doesn't seem to be for a lot of flat earthers. A lot of flat earthers are all over the place with it. Hence, they're looking for these mistakes with the vaping, with the footprints in the snow or lack of, with the shadows and the strange behavior of the shadows, the morphing of the sun slightly in the sky, the fact that we've only had a very quick time-lapse recording of the so-called 24-hour sun, and allegedly someone's broken that down and said it's not even 24 hours captured in that time-lapse. The fact that half the time some of them are walking around as if it's the height of summer, even though they're supposed to be in a place that's sub-0 degrees Celsius, that is, temperatures. And the list goes on and on and on, and anomalies that you can see when you're watching the pictures. But like I said, that all aside, doesn't matter what they saw in the sky or claim or don't claim or whatever. Right from the start, we always said, or some of us did, the Earth is measured flat, and that's all that counts. That out-trumps every other argument or scenario. And that's what I will definitely be sticking with. I have done all of last year. And I think that argument, or the how can I say it, the strength of that argument is what's brought about this whole episode in the first place, with the spawning of the whole idea of the final experiment, wrongly named final experiment, and all the rest of it. Like I said, you have to look at the timing of it all. You know, I don't think that's a coincidence at all. You know, there's no such thing as coincidences, as we know. So while we're on that topic of irrefutable, take a look, if you can, this coming Saturday UK time, 3 o'clock in the morning it is, but just watch it later on in the day or whatever. Brian's Logic, the channel Brian's Logic, check him out, Brian. He will be talking to Mark Sargent, and he will be discussing pitch data. Pitch data is yet another irrefutable proof that we live on a level plane, on a whatever you want to call it. Flat Earth is the word that even gets used by those who don't believe that the Earth is flat because they just simply haven't done the research, or because they've been told not to and been told to push a different agenda and a different message. But pitch data is, again, one of those killer arguments that there's no way around. And I've spoken to a couple of pilots, by the way, who have confirmed it as well. Right? Pitch data, if you want to know what that is, Brian will go into real detail on it on Saturday. But basically, it's when a plane flies, it pitches its nose slightly above horizon for aerodynamic purposes, right? But if you get the data from the flight path of a plane, you'll find that at altitude, cruising altitude, it remains in level flight all the time. It doesn't drop its nose slightly to account for flying over the surface of a ball, which you would have to, especially on longer distances, but you would have to at any distance, right? A ball is a ball is a ball, right? So Brian will be going into that. For me, that is yet another just nail in the coffin. And these are the arguments that those of us in Flat Earth who truly are Flat Earthers should be sticking with, because they're non-negotiable, they're not up for debate, and the other lot know it. Now, those within the Flat Earth community who have got issues with everything, and are panicking now and trying to force through how a 24-hour sun could work or couldn't work, or whether one of the participants vaped or didn't vape or whatever, well, I'm afraid you're going to have to snap out of it very quickly. Otherwise, you're going to be in a lot of pain for a long time, because it will just keep going round and round in circles, and you'll never find a conclusion to that. Right? I personally can sleep well at night, metaphorically speaking, when it comes to this topic, because I know the Earth is measured flat. And I remember back to the old days when I used to be in things like the Scouts and stuff like that. And I used to do quite a bit of map reading. I used to love it. And thinking back to it now, when I used to use a compass a lot and stuff like that, it all makes sense. It all totally makes sense. In fact, the one thing that got in the way was this niggling thing that, but we're supposed to be on a ball. Because that never really fitted in with everything else we were doing. It didn't fit with reality. It doesn't fit what we see, what we feel. Let's be frank and honest about it. It doesn't. And I mean, I could go into different topics here, and I've already exceeded 15 minutes. So hopefully I can still get this up on Facebook. But, this goes into a deeper line topic of us as humans not paying attention to our own instincts anymore, and our own intuition anymore, and our own senses anymore. It seems to be like, check your phone to see what the weather's like outside. Don't look out the window kind of thing. I mean, it's something we've been talking about here in certain circles for years and years now. And you saw the end product of that was people's behaviours over the last few years, when certain agendas were being pushed, for example, and everybody was following leaders, so-called, and not using their brains, observing and giving it some decent discernment and some due diligence when it comes to thinking about it, and weighing it all up. We are entitled to do that as well, we're not, or we shouldn't be thinking that, we have to go by our books written by people with letters after their names. That's nonsense. They've all been peer reviewed by like-minded people to keep them all in line. Don't ever forget that. Right? So, I was asked this question just to round off not so long ago, am I qualified to talk about this topic? Am I a physicist? Am I this? Am I that? Am I the other? But that's often like a counter argument that you'll get. Well, okay, then are you an astronaut? How do you know so much about space? You could say the same thing back, couldn't you? It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it's something that astounds me, to be absolutely honest, that the ones within the flat earth community aren't smelling the coffee there and just going, yeah, well, who cares what happened there? We know the earth's flat. It's measured that way. It has to be. It's aviated that way. It's built upon that way. We map it that way. We navigate that way. It's the way it is. Anyhow, so yeah, check out Brian from Brian's Logic on Mark Sargent this Saturday at 3 a.m. I do believe UK time. You can double check and just go on Mark's YouTube channel and have a look. He's got it lined up there in his upcoming events. I checked it earlier, so that would be worth listening in on, I think, because Brian knows his stuff, and he's been talking about this pitch data now for a while. Because that's a key element. They could have already proven a flat earth on their way there, couldn't they? If that's where they were going and all that. But I'm not going to go down that road. Just to round off, this 28th of January, Tuesday the 20th of January at 7 p.m. at the Bridge House Hotel in Ferndown on the fringes of Bournemouth. I will be presenting some old world stuff. I'm just going to use a few visual aids, some pictures, and I'm going to have a little chat about, well, first of all, what we're seeing on the pictures, but also talking about the timeline, especially the last 150, 200 years, and how, in my informed opinion, we as a civilization don't go much further back than the beginning of the 1800s. So, on that note, I hope you all have a good rest of your week and upcoming weekend. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Some of you much, much sooner. I'm just smirking because I just remembered before, actually, I put the TV on, as I often do, just to keep me a little bit of company. That's something flickering in the background. And there's a movie on now, I'm not too sure it's still on, I think it is, called A Bridge Too Far, which talks about Operation Market Garden in World War II, which by all accounts was an absolute disaster. And it's a film full of superstars of the day, American, British actors, whatever, all that sort of stuff. But just before the film came on, I saw an advert, a commercial by our Royal Air Force here in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, recruiting for our newly formed Space Force. And the images that were shown were a process of things happening that prevented two satellites from colliding while they were orbiting around our Earth. They were the visuals that we were given. CGI, of course. CGI. Anyway, yeah, I just thought I'd put that out there. The fight continues, doesn't it? They ain't giving up, that's for sure. We just got to stick with what we know, what we can validate, and then we'll be fine. Let everybody else have their meltdowns. Sit back and enjoy the carnage. On that note, see you all later. Ta-ta for now.